one concurrent viewer. The show, the Amy Newman channel, is live at the moment, and I should mention that I've just been hidden on it after I pointed out that I'd been removed from the Discord server, which is all perfectly logical. If they don't want to have me on the show anymore, they wouldn't want me complaining about it. So that's all par for the course. But let me tell you what happened. So, as you know, I was on the show yesterday discussing, let me see, I can barely remember now. Oh yes, it was a book of numbers, and I thought I made a fairly good rabbinical analogy to the story of Moses and the spies with looking for a parking space. In fact, I was quite pleased with myself about it. But anyway, that was not appreciated or not absorbed, or the point not taken, because the whole point of that channel is to say how ridiculous people of religion are, and then to deny that they hate people who believe in religion, or, well, maybe not hate, but have contempt and pity for people who believe in God. They do allow a few Christians, but what kind of Christians are they? They're the Christians who don't want to discuss the idolatry of Christianity. Surprise, surprise. Now, you can point out to me that this was just a matter of time before I was going to be deplatformed for my views, even though I have not actually broken any of the terms of service. People would say, well, it's not useful having you on because you have views that people don't like, and it makes people not want to visit us, join us, and that sort of thing. But if you're a channel talking about religion, politics, you will need people who represent both sides of the argument, because a monologue is not much fun, is it? Those of you who have to listen to me go on in my monologues, you prefer a dialogue, and so would I. So dialogues are just better for business in a way, because you get a more engaged listener. But they're not even going to have that, presumably, because people are apparently not interested. Not interested in a dialogue. They don't want to engage on the subject. Because, well, why? Why wouldn't they engage on the subject other than because they know they're going to lose the argument? And they have decided not to be moved by arguments. They wish to hold on to their original position, and it is an emotional position that they cannot quite analyse or articulate, but they hold on to it because emotion is more motivating than reason. And there are no people around able to be moved by truth, logic, and morality, and who can use the principles of truth, logic, and morality to win arguments. And this is a culture, I know this is the intellectual culture. It has to be it is the prevailing culture. Individuals, apart from myself, don't feel confident enough to question this culture, and so they submit to it and obey its commands, which is to not platform anything that goes against the prevailing culture, which is rotten. The intellectual culture is, in fact, stinking and rotten, and it doesn't like it being pointed out that it is stinking and rotten. And the most interesting thing about it is that both sides are stinking and rotten. So the people below who complain about the people above being corrupt and incompetent are themselves corrupt and incompetent. What are the signs of corruption? It is merely denial of truth. You don't have to take bribes, you don't have to do anything other than to deny the truth or ignore the truth if it doesn't suit you, even though you have no arguments. So arguments against my position would be that I have said something untrue, or that I've said something illogical, or that I've said something immoral. And if you want to discuss morality with me, if you disagree with me on my definition of morality, then you must be able to provide a better definition of morality than me. So the only person who has ever engaged with me on this is Jen, who has actually defined morality, and her definition of morality is the minimization of suffering. And I pointed out to her that that is not enough. And I've proposed that the definition of morality is that it is a system of do's and don'ts designed to keep the group in existence and apart from others. And implicit in this assumption is that we submit to truth, logic, and morality. So whatever our chosen moral system, be it communism, be it Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, we have to submit to truth and logic, which is overarching. It's part of the logos of reason. However, if you are not going to be moved by truth, logic, and morality, then I'm not going to be using other means. I'm not going to use a stick or carrot. I can't use a stick because I don't have a police force or an army, and not being a billionaire, I won't be bribing you. And so it has to be only for reasons of truth, logic, and morality that you would support my position. And if you require any other kind of incentive, such as a stick or a carrot, then you're not the person I want anyway. So in a way, my position is clear, and I will not resile from it. So I see Dr. Mengele pointing out in the chat that Ed Dutton streamed with Citizen Reporter, but not me. But why did he choose to stream with Citizen Reporter, who is my intellectual inferior, and keeps getting her channels cancelled for anti-Semitism? It's because Ed Dutton actually prefers people who won't challenge him, who will be pleasingly deferential to him. He knows that I will be asking him questions that he would rather not answer. So that's why he won't platform me, and this, of course, is another form of corruption, that he won't engage in any form of honest debate with me, because he knows he doesn't want to answer my questions. He is now in a awkward position of half praising Islam, but saying Muslims are stupid and with a tendency for genocide, which is a lie. And he knows he can't defend that, and he won't be able to defend that against me, and that's why he's pretending that he has never heard of me. But I know the circles in which he mixes. He mixes with people like Mark Gollett, Millennial Woes, and they're certainly aware of my existence, and it's unimaginable that they would not have discussed my existence and my ideas with him. So his lie is, frankly, unbelievable. But this is unfortunately the tactics used by both the establishment parties, not parties, they don't even have parties. So we know that the Western liberal establishment uses its control of the media to frame a narrative, and this framing of the narrative has nothing to do with truth, logic, or morality, and certainly they are not prepared to discuss these ideas on the BBC or anywhere else that is considered mainstream. And the people below, i.e. the anti-immigration political parties, they're not prepared to discuss ideas either with me or with each other, because they know they're going to lose the debate. And yesterday I drew this analogy of unifying titles in boxing, and it could, in theory, be the case that there is somebody who could beat all the world heavyweight boxing champions, but if all the different titles of world heavyweight boxing refuse to let him fight against any of their championship boxers, then his championship and his supremacy will never be heard. And this, of course, would be a delight to those who know they have no arguments against mine and would like to have me silenced because I win all the arguments. And so the only people prepared to engage with me... Oh, I have 2 concurrent viewers now. I don't know who the other one is, but it can't be anybody important, eh? Yes, so the only people prepared to engage with me are morons and vegetables, bumping along at the bottom, hate-watching me, such as Dr. Mengele, who doesn't really understand the situation. But then he is an anti-Semite, as you would suspect from his name. And I'm happy to platform anti-Semites because I know They haven't got an argument, they have a mental health issue, they have a character defect, they have a learning disability, and it's very easy to win arguments against them. So let us examine the reasons given to me by James W., writing on behalf of Amy Newman. He says, and this is what I woke up to. It was sent to me at 5:56 a.m. British summertime, and it goes. So we've been discussing it among ourselves as subscribers, patrons and mods. Well, you have always been polite to us. It's our viewers and those who support the show financially who make it all possible. The sordid articles and photos circulating the internet are just too big of an elephant in the room. Godwin's law fully applies, and virtually every stream will get pulled in that direction. Nobody's really listening to your ideas. They just wait for you to stop talking so they can berate you for being a terrible person. That's just not the kind of show we want or content we want to put out. The fact that you are open about who you are and all that information is available, it's an albatross around the show. We just can't risk alienating a decent amount of our supporters to continue to platform you. You've made your case to them, they heard what you said, and they'd rather not hear you anymore. At this time, we just won't be able to have you on the platform. So, here is the reason. Financial reasons. Financial reasons for not platforming me. I don't think it's because I don't draw people in. I think I do. And that's presumably why Amy Newman had me on the show anyway. But now it seems I've drawn too much attention to myself. But let us go through all the words. So the first sentence was that, well, for financial reasons, we're not going to platform you anymore. And then they talk about articles and photos. I don't deny the existence of that article in Vice about me, and obviously unflattering references to me that are on the internet, but that would actually make me more interesting and draw more people in, but that's not really what they want. They want sponsors, and sponsors have a view, and they don't want to be known for platforming truth, logic and morality. They want to be platforming only establishment views, and views that do not threaten the current establishment. So let us look at Godwin's laws. Or rather, Godwin's law. It's something to do with Nazis, isn't it? Godwin's law. Is an internet adage asserting that an online discussion grows longer regardless of topic or scope. As an online discussion grows longer regardless of topic or scope, the probability of a comparison involving Nazis or Adolf Hitler approaches. And this is easily explicable in the sense that all political discussions end with one or the other of the parties being right or wrong, good or evil, sane or insane. And so what James is saying is that the moment somebody uses a Nazi analogy to defeat your argument, you must immediately submit to it, whether or not you are in fact a Nazi or not. That is the rule that he wants to submit to, he and his sponsors. So let us understand what he is really saying. Now he's saying that any stream I appear in which I win the argument, I will be accused of being a Nazi, and they will be accused of being Nazis, whether or not they are in fact Jewish or not. I would have thought they are easy arguments to make, like, well, I'm not a Nazi because I'm not an anti-Semite, and I've never been a member of the Nazi Party, and I was born after World War II. That would have been an easy argument to make, which is that it is impossible for me to be a Nazi, and it is wrong to call all anti-Semites Nazis, because anti-Semitism existed before Nazis, and arguably anti-Semitism has been provoked by 2,000 years of Christianity. And this is actually what I want to discuss. So yesterday, when I was in the Amy Newman Discord server, I did propose a debate, and Mark Reed was present when I challenged Will Stewart, who is that Calvinist, to a debate on whether Christianity is idolatry, and he said he would accept. And I think I know exactly what happened. It's the Christian supporters and guests of Amy Newman who've said, don't let her on anymore. We can't defend the Trinity, and if you let her on, we're going. This is a pure speculation on my part, but I haven't been getting on very well with the Christian guests of Amy Newman, because they don't want to be put through the grinder of being questioned about the Trinity and how Jesus is God. So I think they're the ones who were more behind the momentum to get me deplatformed. James continues, nobody is really listening to your ideas. They just wait for you to stop talking so they can berate you for being a terrible person. I would have thought many people would enjoy that. I was certainly prepared to put up with it, because they have no arguments against my truth, logic, and morality. What have I proposed other than that we obey God's laws, particularly the no-hide laws? And obviously rabbis need to rank the 4 Gentile religions so that Christians know what a terrible religion they have had for 2,000 years, repent of their idolatry and blasphemy, and choose the most no-hide religion of all, which is Islam. But it seems rabbis are too afraid of offending their Christian overlords to do this ranking that I have been proposing that they do. So James W. continues, that's just not the kind of show we want or content we want to put out. Now, what is the content that they put out? It is religious content, let me have a look at what Amy Newman's titles are. Let's see. They're now doing one on the Shroud of Turin, and then yesterday they were doing, the one I was on was about the story of Moses and the spies, and the ones Noah's Ark, and yeah, religion and politics. It keeps popping up. But they won't platform my little idea of secular Quranism. Now we can only speculate on what was the last straw. I think the last straw was my interaction with Will Stewart, who's a Calvinist. I don't think he liked me pointing out that it was John Calvin who had Michael Servetus burnt at the stake for denying the Trinity. And there's someone called Pat Lowinger, who doesn't like me asking about the Trinity because he himself no longer believes in the Trinity and couldn't explain it to me. Unfortunately, all these exchanges have been lost, as I have been taken off the Amy Newman Discord server. So that's a problem for free speech. So let me continue. The fact that you are open about who you are and all that information is available, it's an albatross around the show. So let's see. I probably don't make that much difference to their show, because I can't say that I have brought them that many more viewers and subscribers. So I don't think so I can't say, before Claire there were so few viewers, and after Claire there were so many. There's obviously I can't pretend that I have brought them that many subscribers. Or I can't analyse them properly, and I can't tell which ones I started appearing in. But anyway, if I've made no difference, then, what's the problem? But I think it was really the Christians who had it in for me. And, of course I can't prove it, but really it's Christians who are most resentful of my presence, asking them how and why Christianity isn't idolatry and blasphemy. And they obviously don't want to be made uncomfortable on the show, and I think Amy Newman would rather keep these tame Christians than have me questioning the Trinity. So, which is actually very Jewish, and as you all know, Amy Newman is herself Jewish. So I don't think the fact that I am who I am is an albatross around the show. I don't think I have lowered the number of subscribers I have, or noticeably increased their viewership. What should I do? I should see which is the most popular show, stream, and mind you, I am actually okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, the 6 most popular videos do not have me in it at all, but the 7th most popular video does have me in it, and I think 1, 2. So the 7th, 8th, and 9th. Well, actually, yeah, maybe I have in fact increased their subscribers, and because I obviously I do have a following, and they've come, to hear me on the Amy Newman show, and they may go because I'm no longer platformed. But I don't think they're really that bothered about it. Because it's not a big show, and I'm sure they're not getting that much money, and I think it's the Christians who don't like me there. I mean, if you guys are interested, you can always check. If you guys want to do what I can no longer do on the Amy Newman show, you can always keep asking Christians how and why Christianity is not the idolatry and blasphemy forbidden by God in his 10 commandments and the 7 no-hide laws. If you care. Hello, Howard. Hello, tooth number 13.0. So let me just finish analysing what James W. has said to me. So he said they don't want to risk alienating their supporters. But I don't think I really alienate them. I think what's happened is that Will and Pat, the Christians who are regular guests, have said, it's either her or us, and if you continue to let her post in Discord to keep asking us how and why Christianity is not idolatry and blasphemy, we're not going to appear on your show anymore. And maybe no other Christians will appear on their show, but those ones. So he continues, you've made your case to them, they heard what you said, and they'd rather not hear any more. Yes, I'm sure they would rather not hear any more, but the point is that this is supposed to be a dialogue, so I say something and you respond to that with an argument, and obviously these arguments are going to be repeated and repeated, because it's like a kind of sword play, and obviously my argument is clearer than their argument, because obviously I'm saying that Christianity is idolatry and blasphemy, and these Christians can't explain how it isn't idolatry and blasphemy, and so they want me to shut up. And I think that's what's happened. And then he ends with the sentence, at this time we just won't be able to have you on the platform. So actually I don't think it's even the sponsors, because I don't violate the terms of service. All that I propose is peaceful and legal. But I know that yesterday I interacted big time with the Christians on the Amy Newman channel. I don't think they like me, but they haven't got arguments. So there we are. I think that's a reason. I mean, yeah, I can complain about the liberal political establishment, but I think it was really the Christians who were gunning for me. So Howard says, religion is just not the hit topic. Anti-feminism is about to get big. Well, you will be using anti-religion to deal with feminism. That's my whole point. And how did feminism get so powerful? It was because of the failure of Christianity. That's also pretty obvious. And if you want to solve the problem, then you need to discuss the moral system that is Christianity, which I'm saying has failed. It's very curious about the concurrent viewers. I know there's 4 of you in the chat, but it still says, okay, it said 1, now it's saying 2. Yeah, I think people who are capable of putting 2 and 2 together will know that it was a failure of Christianity that allowed feminism to triumph in the West. And now, if it ever gets a pushback, it will get it from religion. And it must get it from religion because it's the only way of making any changes in the law permanent. Because you don't want to go through this again, do you? You don't want to have, every generation doing this patriarchy and matriarchy switchover. You need to learn your lesson properly and see to it that feminism is not allowed to take over again in as far as, within your lifetime and hopefully beyond. And the only way of doing that is to invoke a higher authority and, or in fact, the supreme authority of the universe. So, I don't know what Tooth Number is trying to say. He hasn't said anything that makes any sense so far. So, yes, you can pass laws to defeat feminism, and in theory, all you have to do is repeal all the laws that protect feminists. You could do that, but if the moral system is a secular political ideology, then what happens will be that eventually people will say, why don't we try feminism again? Because that's what's going to happen, isn't it? People don't learn their history properly, they don't understand their history, and by the time bad stuff happens, that they're just going to deny it. And the thing is that history is actually a very political subject because narratives are imposed for political reasons. It has been said that the victor is the one who writes history. And we also know that history curricula change all the time. According to fashions of educational thinking. So if you want to fix the problem once and for all, you need to invoke a higher authority. And this your ancestors well understood. And this is what you are not prepared to consider or entertain. So I don't know what you're trying to say, Howard, when you say feminism killed Christianity, not the other way around. I really don't know what you mean. Anyway, the problem is obviously the failure of Christianity, and you refuse to admit it, and you think you can get away with it by saying, let's repeal all the feminist laws and everything will be okay again. And I'm saying no, because you can do this, but eventually you won't have learnt the lesson, because you won't have acknowledged that you broke God's laws, or what are said to be God's laws. And so the mistake will be repeated in future generations, and future generations will be made to suffer the same mistake again, because you refuse to learn your lesson properly. And you are showing signs of reluctance because you don't want to acknowledge that Christianity is wrong. And you don't want to acknowledge that Christianity is wrong because it's the religion of your ancestors. But any examination of your history will tell you that the First Amendment is in fact based on chapter 2 verse 256 of the Quran. And I suppose you will want to deny this, and you will also conveniently ignore the fact that 5 of the founding fathers were not Christians. And so you won't be learning the most important lesson of all. And you're thinking, let's just do the little we need to do and pretend it all never happened, and we can carry on saying that America is a liberal country and liberalism is the best ideology available. Well, I don't know what you're trying to say. I'm saying, to diagnose the problem, you need to go to the root of the problem. You don't just sort of tidy up the mess without... Well, I don't know. I mean, what is it you think you're doing? You have a leak in your boat. You're just going to pump water out and you think that's it? Okay, so Howard says I'm a more regressive traditionalist. What does that mean? Nobody's heard of a regressive traditionalist. You make these names up for yourself and they don't mean anything to anybody. What are the principles of a regressive traditionalist? Nobody knows. And if you want a functioning moral and legal political system, you need a document that clearly states what these principles are. But you think calling yourself a regressive traditionalist is enough? But nobody really knows what traditionalism means. And so you won't have solved your problem, because the problem is that you actually have something that would do the job of giving you a sound moral and legal political system, but you reject it for reasons of pride. You think your little idea is better than acknowledging that Christianity has failed. You don't really want to do a tidying up. So what are you saying, Howard? You're saying lack of doctrine is key. To what? It's very frustrating talking to people who can only post thoughts that are unformed, that they cannot really explain. It's very frustrating. So Howard attempts to explain himself better, and he says traditionalism is community-based cultures, regional attitudes and styles of dress. Well, no. Traditionalism is patriarchy and marriage and family values. That is what constitutes the golden thread that runs through all the world religions. So I don't think that lesson has been learnt by Howard, unfortunately. So Howard thinks there's going to be an anti-feminist backlash, and he thinks that will do. Well, an anti-feminist backlash could lead to, well, all sorts of terrible things. Revenge against women. What was that? Oh, yeah, a sort of the handmaiden's tale situation. So obviously we have to base the new rules on something that is fair. But Howard, being a man, probably doesn't care. He probably wants to punish a few feminists, isn't really interested in doing it in a fair way, because I think injustice is what creates the desire for revenge by one side against the other, and if it's not fair, then you won't get peace. No justice, no peace. And I guess he doesn't really care about it being fair because he's a man. But I care about it being fair because I want the solution to be permanent. And he doesn't want to acknowledge that Christianity was wrong ab initio because of its idolatry. So with the benefit of hindsight, we should know that Christianity is idolatry, and if we believe in God, or are thinking of believing in God and the only God worth worshipping, if we're minded to believe and worship a deity, would be the Abrahamic God. So I am interested in my solution being fair to both sides. And I want it to be a permanent solution, not tinkering around at the edges, and then having to fix a solution, fix a problem again later because you haven't plugged the leak. I don't know. It's really hopeless, isn't it? So what is Howard saying? But not in a mass uniculture. The worldwide sameness of culture is a major issue. I'm not proposing a mass uniculture, Howard. You don't understand what I'm trying to do you? I do not say that the world should be under a uniculture. I have never said that, but you accuse me of the same thing. That it really is hopeless, isn't it? How would secular Quranism make the world into the same culture? How? No new rules, no one size fits all. So you deny the no-hide laws, do you? So which of the no-hide laws do you disagree with? Which ones? So Howard says the most dangerous culture is a worldwide one. All the eggs in one basket, you need many varied cultures. I don't deny that. I think you have a fundamental misunderstanding of secular Quranism. Secular Quranism will get you your country back, and you can be yourself. I mean, the whole reason why I made all those flags using American states is that I was making the point that secular Quranism, American secular Quranism, could be differently interpreted. So I was saying that if all the different states of America could interpret secular Quranism in their own way, then they would be interpreting it in their own way, in a different way. So California would be interpreting secular Quranism in a different way to secular Quranism interpreted in say, New York, or Arizona, or Kentucky, or Florida. Are you getting my point now, Howard? So do you think all these states will be interpreting secular Quranism in exactly the same way? Will Hawaii be interpreting secular Quranism in the same way that... Let me see, I just want to have a look. That's Delaware. Or Mississippi, or Texas, or Wisconsin. In fact, well, if only you guys would try it. So let's pretend that secular Quranism is allowed state interpretation. So every state would have the autonomy of interpreting secular Quranism in their own way. Do you think they would do it in exactly the same way? Do you, Howard? So are you saying that the state of Kansas will be interpreting secular Quranism in the same way as Pennsylvania? Really? And is New Mexico going to be interpreting secular Quranism in the same way as New Jersey? I trust I've made my point. Yes, Howard, I am building a new orthodoxy. So you know when you do building works, you'll have builders saying that while you're doing this, you might as well do that because it's so expensive. You know, if you want to, you'll find any building work that you do will mean additional other building work. If the builder is trying to sell you more stuff, and then it would still make sense. Because, when you're fixing something, you might as well fix all the other wrong things, right? So if you call out the plumber, you should ask them to fix all the other things that are wrong with your general plumbing, because they charge so much, don't they, when they come to you? So it wouldn't make sense just to fix the little itty-bitty things, because if it means that you'll have to call them out again a week later, a month later. So you want them to fix all the problems while they're on the same call. So all you can focus on is dealing with a feminist. And I'm saying, you need a holistic solution, because once you deal with a feminist, everything needs to be rearranged. But this is, I suppose, my punishment. I only get people who don't quite understand my ideas, or can only see them up to a point. They don't want to go the whole hog. They think their piecemeal solution is enough for their purposes, because they don't want to admit that Christianity was wrong ab initio, that it was idolatry and blasphemy, and they think that it's okay to carry on for a bit with more idolatry and blasphemy and not admit that it was ever a problem. And it seems that the Jews and Muslims agreed with the Christians on that. Let's not rock the boat. Let's not call out the idolatry of Christianity in case they get offended. Which is very sad, because that is, if you believe in God. Do you believe in God, Howard? Do you believe in God, or not really? It's a kind of lukewarm kind of thing, and going to church is just part of your tradition. But that's the thing, isn't it? If you don't believe in God, then you think, well, one solution is probably about as good as another person's solution. And so you won't be motivated to order your priorities correctly. I suppose I have a certain ability to imagine myself believing in certain things and acting according to the logic of that system. And it seems that nobody believes in the logic of that system anymore. And they think, let's just break all the rules if we can get away with it, because we don't really believe. We don't really believe, so we can just chop and change things as we wish to suit our convenience, and not accept the logic of the system, because we don't really believe in the creator of the system, or that it was even created by anything. And I suppose that has been the condition of atheists. They don't really believe in anything. It's all, well, maybe it doesn't matter really. All these rules, doesn't matter. We don't care. So what is Howard saying? I don't know which professor you're talking about. You'd like to get what done before which professor dies? And so he also says, I'm a grown man. If you got me when I was young enough to believe. Okay, so Howard is saying he's an atheist? Well, I've been saying for quite a while now that we choose to believe what we want to believe. So, what's Chomsky got to do with it? What's Chomsky got to do with anything? I've got a message from Rob, who's... So, well, he's an Islamophobe. I mean, let's just admit that. He pretends not to be an Islamophobe, but all his arguments are, in fact, irrational, which confirms the fact that he is an Islamophobe. So he says to me that I'm projecting, as he says, I see a lot of projection here. and he must have been responding to what I was saying to him before. Projection of what? I don't know. He won't be able to explain himself. People who accuse you of, murder and theft and whatever, and can't produce more information are obviously just using words to insult and abuse you, but they can't substantiate their accusations. So what was I saying before? I'll read out what I said. And before that he was saying, well, you haven't succeeded, have you, Claire, with 10 years of promoting secular Quranism? And I say, I can only convince people who submit to truth, logic and morality. And, it's not my problem if people deny the truth and can't exercise logic and don't care about morality. I'm not going to, even if I could, I'm not going to bribe or threaten them. I'm not going to bribe them with anything, and I'm not going to threaten them with violence. I can't do it anyway, and I wouldn't want to. And I said, a piece of fruit is salvageable if only part of it is rotten. If nearly most of it is rotten, you have to throw the whole thing away. And by that I mean Christianity. I continue, you just want to waste my time coming up with your nonsense arguments that you don't even understand yourself. Most of the time he is incoherent, and if any of you heard our previous exchange, he was basically saying things that he couldn't substantiate. And then when I ask him if he has a better idea other than secular Quranism, he says his faith in Jesus will save him. I continue, the fact is that there are 6 Sharia theocracies in the world, and they'd have no problem with finding their Quran, because what he was saying was that there's lots of Qurans, and the Muslims can't agree on their Quran. And I said, I can find all the verses that I need to find on Corpus Quran, and they work for me. I don't find any ambiguity in the words. So he doesn't know what he's talking about. And when I asked him to explain himself, he posts YouTube videos. He can't post anything else other than YouTube videos. And of course, any idiot can make a YouTube video. So I continue, you are clutching at straws, wanting the Quran to be not fit for purpose when it obviously is. Why would you not want it to work anyway? Because you are an Islamophobe, which is so obvious. It would be understandable if what you have is obviously better, but it is not. It is in fact rotten to the core, but still you want the only thing that could be the cure to your disease to fail. That is why I know you are not quite right in your mind. Just because you managed to say something in response to my points does not mean it was a sound argument or even logical. Lunatics wandering in mental asylums mumble to themselves, and they don't make sense either. The fact that you want the Quran to be unfit for purpose of being the basis of the new moral system of the West when you know Christianity has failed is ipso facto evidence of your irrationality. You are basically saying you would rather go to hell Christian than get to heaven Muslim. And then his response is I see a lot of projection here. I mean, what exactly am I projecting? And if I asked him, he wouldn't be able to respond. And then he says, the Quran is unacceptable because it places women as second-class humans who will mostly end up in hell. Why? Do Muslim women consider themselves destined for hell. So that assertion doesn't even make sense. But if he were to come on, he would be saying these nonsensical things, and I would have to listen to him, and it would be a waste of time and energy. So he's not going to come on again. He can attack my ideas by writing, but it won't be too much good, because really he will reject my solution, whatever the arguments, and you can tell just by the way he was talking. So he continues, Jesus is all about equal opportunity, which is really ridiculous. And then he says, I do not have any irrational fear of Islam, just like I don't have an irrational fear of a hungry lion. It is a perfectly rational fear. I choose to avoid the animal, or if there is no choice, put it down. So he is equating Islam to a hungry lion and saying it is rational, and he can see no situations in which it would be irrational to hate and fear Islam and Muslims. And he doesn't even realise that he is an Islamophobe. So he says he would put it down. He would put the lion down. Well, there are solutions to a hungry lion. So you can feed it and cage it and re-release it. You can release it in the wild. You don't have to exterminate it. But clearly that is what Rob really wishes to do to people who have a better argument and a better way than him. And then his final sentence is, I pray you don't end up lost and mad in an institution mumbling about how you could have saved the West if only they had listened. I share his sentiments, obviously, but I don't think I'm the one who's mad, you see. I'm saying the moral system of the West is broken down, and the moral system is considered to be Christianity, or perhaps liberalism, but they have both broken down. The reason why so many Americans and non-Americans suffered from Trump derangement syndrome was because they were liberals, outraged that there could be so many Westerners rejecting the benefits of neoconservatism and neoliberalism. Now, neoconservatism is the endless foreign wars, the pointless, endless foreign wars that Trump had decided to denounce. And neoliberalism is uncontrolled mass immigration. So these things are either still a problem or they are no longer a problem. So what is it, people? You know you haven't solved your problems because you haven't even explored its source. And I'm saying it's feminism. But Rob, whom I know is not married, is not going to accept what his ancestors had to do, which was to accept a society in which the rule was no premarital sex, no fornication, and I don't think Rob is going to accept that, but he's going to wrap it around in, Islamophobia and because what's really sacred to Rob is the right to have premarital sex, because he probably doesn't expect to be married now, because I don't know, I don't think he's in a good job. I asked what degree he was what degree he got. He said it was ecology. And so men with little means do not really expect to marry, and so they must want the price of sex to remain low and cheap. And marriage is the most expensive form of sex. And if you don't have confidence in the future, you're not going to be thinking of taking on additional burdens, assuming you could even find a woman of your race to marry you. And if you don't even want to reform the contract that is marriage, then you'll be very far from protecting yourself. So I've said that the first practical step for anyone wanting to reform the system is to campaign against no-fault divorce. And this is what so many men in Rob's position refuse to even contemplate, because they know that they would be mocked for being unmarriageable. And if they were to say anything like that, they would say, people would say, well, nobody wants to marry you, so don't you worry about it. And therefore this means that there needs to be a poster boy for men who want to abolish no-fault divorce. And I know a lot of wealthy men like Elon Musk are compromised because they have illegitimate offspring. These men have wised up to marriage and they refuse to marry any woman, but they're prepared to sire illegitimate offspring and pay for it as and when. But they are really creating, well, they're not solving the problem by the way they are behaving. But, I know that probably there will be no poster boy for secular Quranism, or even for reforming the rules of marriage to make marriage a good bargain for men again. So it is pretty much hopeless. So Howard is saying that I picked the Quran stuff out of a hat. No, I didn't. I read it. How is that picking it out of a hat? You don't believe any more than I do. Well, actually, I've said quite consistently for quite a while now that I am agnostic. And an agnostic is obliged to consider both views, the atheist view and the theist view. And I'm saying, if you did believe in God, the Abrahamic God who gave Jews the Ten Commandments and revealed the Quran for Gentiles, then you should fear. You should fear him and your afterlife if you wish to remain Christian, which is idolatry, and you can't explain how Christianity is not idolatry and blasphemy. You have no arguments, except that, well, you have no arguments, and all you can say is, you can't make me. We don't like it, and we don't want to. But these are only the mewlings of children, and badly parented children at that. But then this has always been a problem of parenting. How many generations now have been badly parented whose parents never taught their children to submit to truth and exercise logic and have a few principles? I guess their unmarried mothers just didn't get round to it. Pseudonym, you're new. So it doesn't make sense what you're saying. I like the I like the Quran stuff because I have no idea what you're talking about. But I'm talking about secular Quranism. You see, I can't even make sense of that post. Because most people can't think clearly, which is why they post nonsense. I can't even begin to interpret what you said. It's unpunctuated, it's ungrammatical, there are no proper sentences in it. Ah, that's better. There's no such thing as secular Quranism, you made that up. But all ideas are made up and later given a name. I have given it a name. It is distinctive in that you can sum it up. So if somebody asked you what secular Quranism is, you would say it's Sharia interpreted. It's a Quran interpreted by me. So it would be a new school of Sharia. So it can be easily categorized, and it is a legal system, and it is obviously a political system too that would restore the patriarchy. I've told you its nature, I've told you its purpose, but I suppose what you're saying is that there's no book about it. That's all you're saying. But it is distinctive in that people know what it is. It triggers many members of the nationalist community, because after 10 years, nobody can think of a better idea than me. But no, I'm not going to change my style. I mean, let's assume that if I were to win lots of money, do you think I'd be bribing people? I'd be doing deals with them. Would that be bribing? Now, what would I do? I suppose I could pay people with Patreon accounts and that kind of thing, right, couldn't I? Well, actually, imagine if I had lots of money, I could pay people with bigger channels than me. Now, who would that be? The thing is, I can't even think of a person whose channel that I admire. But yeah, there are plenty of channels bigger than me. Well, okay. The real problem here is that, I mean, forget little old me. The fact is that the men are really not capable of cooperating with each other. It's not just me that they won't talk to. They don't talk to each other. They're fearful of engaging in any kind of discussion in case they fall out with each other. So they have really very dull conversations, particularly those who have a degree. They're very careful to title their streams in a really boring way, and then they talk to each other in a really boring way, so they kind of feel that, well, at least I've expressed my view, and I've got a big channel, but I have proposed no solution other than to predict the future, saying that eventually everything will be all right, but refuse to discuss any solutions or use arguments or engage properly. So, and if I talk to anyone, it'll just be a one-off, so nobody really gets it, and use the most impenetrable words, using pretentious philosophical terms, so nobody gets you. So a lot of time is wasted, and this is one of the problems I have with Western philosophy because it wastes so much time and it produces nothing. And all this displacement therapy, a lot of these platforms have people who are intelligent, who are educated, but who refuse to discuss anything important or relevant because they fear to get cancelled. So Pseudonym has retracted his comments, which is another sign of fear. I don't know why people do that. Were you saying anything that... But why do you do it? Why do you do it? You don't want your friends knowing that you posted on my channel? Is that it? Okay, I'm going to go now, but I'm just saying that it's the Christians who have a problem with me, and I'll say that in the title. On being deplatformed from the Amy Newman channel at the behest of Christians. Yeah. On being deplatformed from the Amy Newman channel at the behest of her Christian guests? ? So that's all for today. Thank you all for listening.